Hey everybody. Welcome to a late night in Central Park. We're checking out this family of raccoons that are now climbing back up into the tree. There was just a whole bunch of them down here. There must have been like 7 or 8 raccoons just hanging out here. And now they're going back home. You can kind of see them. Look at that guy. That's so cool. Ah, it's too dark. All right, everyone, we'll get started here in a moment. Welcome to Central Park. Welcome to New York City, and happy Friday. We'll get started in a moment. Hey everyone, let's actually go ahead and get started since it's a little late. It's about 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. We're reporting live from Central Park, and we have this great view of Central Park Tower and 220 Central Park South. It's a beautiful night in New York City. It was a wild day, a little bit of a rally day on Wall Street. And small caps performed quite well. The IWM, or the Russell 2000, was up quite materially. I think we were up almost 2% on the Russell. And next week is going to be even crazier with earnings. I mean, this week was action-packed. Seems like every day on the stream we did a deep dive for almost 2 hours into Tesla. Alphabet reported pretty good quarter. Visa, we had Chipotle report a great quarter, and next week we have Microsoft. So let's go ahead and take a little walk around the park at night. Hope everyone had a wonderful week, productive week. Now, what you're looking at across the park on the Upper West Side, this is the brand new ultra luxury development by Extel. And usually on the Upper West Side, you don't kind of see those ritzy, glitzy, glass encased skyscrapers. That's mainly for Central Park South and Billionaires Row, like you can see here. But it seems as if maybe we'll start to have a lot of these buildings creep up towards the Upper West Side. It should be pretty interesting. This is 1 Central Park West. That's 15 Central Park West. And that is the new Extel building. I see Kimberly here, Stephanie Stearns, what's going on? I see Professor Dario, welcome. It's good to see you, happy Friday. Sharon is here. Victor C, what's going on? Jafet Perez, Joe Ratz, Sharon James. I got your email, by the way. At least I think that was you. Let me see. Yeah, I got your email about if you're interested in working at Neuberger Berman. One of my best friends from college works there, right here on Avenue of the Americas, right next door to Charles Schwab, your current employer. So if you're in the city, let me know, and I'll try to set up an in-person. I'd be more than happy to do that. Lena Sandoval, what's up? Adam Wagner, cheers. New England Crypto says, Tom, we need to hit the BTC conference next year. I'm down. Now, I wanted to go this year. It was just too crazy this year with scheduling and all that. But I went to the one in Miami a few years back. I actually got a press pass, which was an awesome event, by the way. How long ago is that now? When was Bitcoin Miami? I think that was 2022. I forget. I mean, it must have been 2 years ago now, but it was at the Miami Convention Center in South Beach, and it was awesome. It was awesome. Got to meet a lot of really cool people. Orlando Bravo from Toma Bravo, I met him. Kathy Wood. Who else did I see? There's just a lot of cool people. Bobby Lee, who is the CEO and founder of the Ballet crypto wallet. Lots of cool people. Lots of cool people at the Bitcoin conference. Now, you were telling me about RFK Jr.'s speech today at the Bitcoin conference. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I'm gonna watch it tonight after the live stream. I'm sure it was fantastic. Man, look at that. We're looking at the Steinway Tower. Looks like a lot of people are home tonight too. You have 157 above the Essex House. Really good views of Billionaires Row here. But New England crypto, do we know when well, not when, do we know the location of the next Bitcoin conference? If it's close, I'm down. There's 432 Park. I want to take you guys to a certain point of Central Park where I haven't taken you in a long time. The last time I went over here was probably during the holidays. Maybe even during the holidays of last... You know what? Maybe even during the holidays of 2 years ago. Now, this is where the ice skating rink usually is. In the summer, they also have... Well, I shouldn't say they also have... I would say in substitution of the ice skating rink, they have the roller skating rink there. Usually they do. But we'll check it out. Check it out. Sam M, what's up? And then we got the Olympics going on too. We got the Olympics, which is nice. I don't think I'll be watching the Olympics though. Miller Rom says, Tom, I've enjoyed your walks in the park lately. Just curious, would you recommend out of tea owners do the same? What do you mean? Am I reading that right? Like out of town people walking in the park? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, Central Park is pretty safe. It's pretty safe at night. Now, if you go all the way up by like Cathedral Parkway, like 110th Street, and you just like you hang around in like a desolate part of the park, yeah, I mean, it's probably maybe a little sketchy, but here, this is Central Park South. It's quite nice. You have a lot of people walking around. Yeah, I mean, I've never personally run into a problem in Central Park ever. Now, I would say, look, if you're a female, I think it's a different story. That's just the world we live in. I think it's just common sense, right? I wouldn't be alone. Like if I was, a 20-year-old female, I wouldn't, I wouldn't make an outing of it to go out in the park at 10 o'clock at night, every night. But if you're in a group, you're with friends, there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually quite nice. Now, I think they got pickleball here. This freaking pickleball is all over the place now. Hey, what's up, Natalie? We're gonna have a chill stream tonight. It's been a hell of a week. Over the past 2 weeks, really, just the news flow has been just out of this world. I don't even think I need to do a recap. Everyone pretty much knows the wild news flow of the last 2 weeks. So hopefully this weekend will be without any breaking news. This is called City Pickle. So they have all these different pickleball courts here. But let's actually loop around, because you have some of the best views of the city from this little platform over here. Alan says, amen, what a hell of a week. Indeed. And next week's gonna be even just as action-packed in terms of corporate earnings. Very excited about Microsoft. Now, you know what was an interesting report that I paid attention to after the bell? Dexcom. Now, I'm not a big biotech guy, not a big pharma person, but Dexcom makes those glucose monitors for diabetics, and the stock got freaking rocked after hours. It was down, I think it was down over 35%, Dexcom. Let me see. The ticker symbol is DXCM. So I called a friend of mine who's an analyst. I don't own the stock, but I actually think it's a pretty cool company. And you know what he said? You know what the first thing out of his mouth? Hold on, let me pull this up for context. Sorry. This is Dexcom. Oh man, that looks so brutal. Yeah, down 40%. So the first thing he said was, yeah, dude, Ozempic. At first I really didn't understand, but then kind of thinking about it, I kind of get it. So this is kind of what my friend said. He's like, with all of these new drugs coming out, Ozempic and the like, essentially weight loss drugs, it could potentially erode the total addressable market for these glucose monitor companies. But to which I say, and I don't have any medical experience, no medical degree, I'm just kind of speculating here. I don't think those drugs, such as Ozempic and the like, I don't think is there a correlation with preventing diabetes with those drugs? Because from my understanding, there's not necessarily a correlation with weight. It's mainly really about diet, right? You could be relatively skinny, but you could, have high amounts of sugar intake, you could eat high processed foods, and it could still lead to diabetes, right? So I don't know, but I think it's pretty interesting. I mean, it was a big miss on the company, but he's like, look, I think a lot of these weight loss drugs, these pills, Ozempics and the like, could potentially eat into some of that business. But I don't know. I'm not as educated enough to really speak about it. I just thought it was quite interesting. Anyway, look at this. This is what I wanted to show you guys. You have this picture perfect view of New York City's Billionaires Row. And you can see the Essex House sign right here. Very cool. Now I'm gonna show you well, in the winter, it's an ice skating rink. In the summer here, it's a pickleball court. But if you're here in New York City in the winter, you gotta come here. And you'll see why in a moment. It's a very, very cool, picturesque kind of experience when you're standing, look at that rat, when you're standing on the balcony, overlooking everyone ice skating, and then you have the backdrop of the city. It's really cool. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So it's almost like you're walking on this big overhang here. There's even a concession stand where you can get like food, drinks. Oh gosh, that rat came right at me. Lots of rats. But you have this big seating area here. You're looking over the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Once again, 15 Central Park West, Trump International Hotel and Tower, 1 Central Park West. Those 2 towers, the former AOL Time Warner Centers, now the Deutsche Bank Tower. Then you have 220 Central Park South, Central Park Tower, 157 Steinway Tower, 53 West 53rd Street, Essex House, Trump Tower, 432 Park Avenue. So imagine standing up here in the winter and all down here you see just, you know, hundreds of ice skaters, and then you have this big backdrop in the distance. It's pretty cool. Let me see if I could zoom out. The wide angle lens is probably going to be a little bit grainy, but you'll get the overall general concept of what I'm talking about. It's a pretty cool experience to be here in person. You see everyone, there's like hundreds of ice skaters, and then you have the whole backdrop of the city. It's a beautiful place. At one point, I believe this was the Trump rink, but now I think the city ripped that away. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Hey, Latha's here, what's going on? Middle-aged grinds is why there's so many rats in that part of the park, I've noticed lately. Well, here's something interesting, and this is totally anecdotal in nature, but if you look at the Plaza Hotel right here, Grand Army Plaza, which I'll take you there, it'll be about 15 minutes before we walk over there, right outside of the Plaza Hotel, okay, inside the fountain at Grand Army Plaza, at night, it literally looks like the fountain is moving because there's so many rats there. Now, the good news is it's under construction. They roped off the entire area outside the plaza, and they're gonna revamp Grand Army Plaza. So it should be quite nice. And maybe that'll solve the rodent problem, but out of all the places I've been to in Manhattan, whatever reason, right outside the Apple Store GM building has the most rats. No idea why, just what it is. Look at those, check out those two dogs over there on the right. I believe those are Korean, it's a Korean breed. I think they are. Yeah, I think these two, like those big puffy white, almost like huskies, but pretty cool. Let's head back and up. We'll go over to the Upper East Side. Hey, Patrice 2020. Good to see you. Man, there's a pretty good view at 220 Central Park South. Hey, what's up, Dave? Now we're gonna go up kind of this curve here, and then we're gonna double back. And since we're in Central Park, we'll go up on top of these rocks. I think that may be a little bit better view than what we just saw. Here's a really good dead centered view of 53 West 53rd Street. walk up about a few more feet. And we'll go on top of these rocks. For some reason it smells like pine cones, like those Christmas pine cones you buy at the store. That's what it smells like. Okay, so when you see this opening, this is where we're gonna make a left. There's this cool little spot that you can walk up, which are these big rocks right here. Hey, what's up, Chris? What's up, Brad? Good to see you. We're once again in Central Park. So check this out. Let me try to go wide angle lens, even though it's kind of poor. So right now we're on this huge rock, and then you have this very unique view of the entire city in the background. And then for some context, this is where we just were, down by the pickleball courts. And people come here late at night, just kind of sit on the rocks and overlook the city. It's really nice. It's almost like a postcard view, pretty much. Now let's head back into the city, out of the park. Hey, Amy T, what's up? Yeah, Central Park is awesome. I think there's this big stigma about, you know, Central Park is so dangerous at night. It's really not. It's really not. Particularly in the summer, there's a lot of tourists here. There's also a lot of police activity, NYPD here. So it's generally pretty safe. And you have some of the best views of the entire city inside Central Park because we're on a high elevation. So if you're visiting New York, I would check out Central Park at sunset and in the middle of the night. Yeah, Brad, that's true. Ford absolutely bombed on earnings. We briefly discussed Dexcom, which is like that glucose monitoring company, which really tanked. I think it was down 40%, and I felt so bad for that analyst that made the appearance on CNBC. He issued this massive buy rating. But here's the thing that you got to understand about analysts, okay? Here's something I understand. When you're at a bank or you're at, an equity research firm, your company assigns you a certain stock, and oftentimes, depending on, now this happens sometimes, depending on the managing director's overall view of the sector or that stock, you kind of got to make the report in line with what the masses say. That's why if you notice, and I really don't read, I do my own diligence. I think that's the way you should do it. But if you ever notice price targets on the street, across the board between Goldman Sachs, all the big banks, JP Morgan Chase, all of them, right? You'll notice how they're kind of always within percentage points of one another, because you're never going to get fired on the street for being kind of in line with the masses. But if you really stick your neck out, that's a risk. But if you stick your neck out and you're wrong, you're going to get cut. So that's why it's almost advantageous not to listen to big analysts on the street. There's a few that own their own firms that make these big cutting edge, breaking kind of like bets, directional bets in the market. And I put those people in a higher weighting than just like the others. But yeah, that guy was getting crucified. And I was talking to my friend, and he's like, Ozempic and those other drugs are gonna shrink the TAM, the total addressable market perhaps, of those diabetic glucose monitoring companies. I don't know if that's true or not. Now, Ozempic is a weight loss drug. I don't know if it prevents diabetes. There's a lot of different factors, I'd assume, that go into if you get diabetes or not. Mostly, your diet. Are you eating a lot of sugar? Are you eating a lot of refined sugars, processed foods? Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. But I don't think the only factor in that is weight, in my view. But it's interesting. There was a lot of people who were talking about that. It was a big move today. 40% after hours, the thing cratered. All right, and here we are, everyone. We're back to where we usually start. So if you're visiting New York City and you want to go to the places that we kind of just, went to tonight, just come right here, 59th Street, Central Park South, outside of the Sherry Netherland, outside of Grand Army Plaza, and just head northwest. Oh, Paul says, I take Ozempic for diabetes. Any insights on that? It would be interesting to hear from a first-person perspective. If the drug works, if you think the drug is positive, a negative viewpoint on it. There's so many different, I've read so many different articles, and I try to get my information from as many diverse sources as possible. Again, this is not my area of expertise at all. I know nothing about this stuff. But some prominent scientists out there are raising signals, like raising the flags that there could potentially be some concerns with these drugs down the line. Because yes, and again, I'm just kind of paraphrasing what the experts are saying. I am not an expert on this when it comes to health. But what a lot of people have been saying is that it is true that it helps you lose the weight, but it could potentially not only make you lose fat, but erode the muscle. And then if you potentially get off the drug down the line, you gain all the weight back, but you don't gain any of the muscle back. So it could be you could run into a very dangerous predicament with some of those drugs. So I don't know. Again, not the sector I cover. All right, let me catch up on some of the comments here. Adam says, well, Tom, it's designed for diabetes and celebs do use it to get 20% weight loss in a year. Brad's brain says, people have got to learn there is no magic pill. Every time something seems too good to be true, guess what? Richard Gutierrez says Ozempic is good, but has a lot of side effects. Sorry, my chat's going crazy. April says you have to work out a lot to maintain your muscle mass while you're on it. Karina Thompson says, Tom, Ozempic is a med for diabetic people. Yeah, it's interesting, and I've said this many times before, but if I had to make a prediction about the future, if you look back historically at bull markets, every single secular bull market is powered by a theme. It's called a thematic, right? What's the big theme of this bull market? You had in the past telecom, right? Cellular phones. You had enterprise software. You had AI, right? I think that's probably the biggest one now. You have semiconductors. That's a big theme. Mark my words, okay? And you could pin this. Mark my words, within the next, I would even say 5 years, you're going to have a pharma and biotech boom, where every day you turn on CNBC, every day you turn on Bloomberg, they're going to be talking about the next biotech stock coming public that's going to have this cure for cancer, this cure for, whatever, this drug for diabetes, this drug for Alzheimer's. There's going to be such a renaissance in biotech, and there's going to be so much money to be made there, but you have got to have the expertise to understand these drugs, to understand which ones are going to have successful clinical trials, which ones are going to pass FDA approval. And it kind of sucks because that's not my wheelhouse. So I would say if anyone here is in the audience, maybe you have a biology degree, or maybe you work in pharma, maybe you work in biotech, I think the next 5 years you can use a lot of your skills to your advantage to make a lot of money, right? Because investing is all about having an edge, and if you know a lot about these companies, you can know which drug or which medicine is better than the latter, and you can capitalize on that. Thankfully, over the last decade, the big theme was tech, telecom, and enterprise software, which just so happened to be the sector I worked in for 12 years. So I knew which companies were buying which cybersecurity companies, or which cybersecurity products, which CRM software are people most likely to use. So you kind of have your edge there. But the next theme, I don't think I'm going to have any edge. But some people that do, you're going to make a big fortune in stock picking in a lot of this biotech stuff, I promise. And it only makes sense, right? Everyone talks about all the different applications. Oh, look at all these barricades outside Trump Tower. Everyone is talking about all these different applications for artificial intelligence, right? But that can also be applied to the medical field as well, to help make different diagnoses, on, you know, different illnesses, and also help recommend specific drugs too. If you build, you know, an algorithm, or you run your symptoms through an AI model, maybe it could spit out an output for you that could recommend a course of treatment. Or maybe it could even, the AI can get so smart that it could even manufacture a specific drug for a company. Right? Think about the R&D, research and development, departments at these big drug companies. Maybe that's replaced by just a big AI, a big LLM, where you train this model with so much data that it could actually come up with the different ingredients to make like a super drug. Or what's also interesting is a lot of this stuff with gene editing, right? Where we could potentially be able to go in and edit your DNA to get rid of, you know, a family lineage of, let's say, cancer. Things are going to get really crazy here, and there's also going to be a lot of people that get really rich over this, which rightfully so they should, right? If they're coming up with cures for potential cancers, that's going to change the world. You know, it's going to really, really change the world. That guy was flying on that scooter. All right, everyone, here's the Peninsula Hotel. Richard Gutierrez, Wire New York taxpayers paying for police protection at Trump Tower. I think there was some order by Mayor Eric Adams that came out due to the, I don't know, recent assassination attempt. There's been threats on some specific places in the city. I don't know for sure. I saw something Mayor Adams put out that there's going to be more security around Trump Tower, according to him, I guess. I just don't know 100%. Abyss's gene editing would be wild, for sure. There's a company called CRISPR, I believe. John says a cure for cancer would be the biggest thing to happen in medicine since antibiotics. Yeah, and cancers are each cancer is very, very different. Someone that's really, really smart that I know that's a biomedical engineer was explaining it to me like that. He's like, to say a cure for cancer broad-based, he's like, it kind of doesn't make sense because there's so many niche specific cancers. And there's so many different causes, there's so many different correlations. It's really interesting, the whole thing. This is East 54th Street. Shell, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Professor says, yeah, they were trying to do that with CRISPR-9. What do you guys think about remote surgery? I remember I was working for Sprint at the time, and this guy comes in. He was talking about, it was a consultant that came in that was helping our IoT team build out the IoT platform, which then got acquired by T-Mobile. But he was talking about all these different use cases, and he said once we have, you know, true embedded 5G networks, again, where you have extreme low latency, high throughput availability, he's like, there's a possibility in the future where you're gonna have, let's say, a doctor in Houston, Texas, right, being able to perform an operation on a patient in New York City, right? So if somebody needs emergency surgery, and this particular doctor is, you know, an expert in, I don't know, let's say neurosurgery, brain surgery, and he specializes in that specific type of surgery, he may be able to pretty much remotely control these instruments and perform the surgery in different states. Oops, hold on one second. Pre-drags as remote surgery is already a thing. Oops, let's just maneuver through here. Steve Gonzalez, what's up? Look at that. This is 53 West 53rd Street. KML's is remote surgery. Well, we do have a shortage of doctors. Maybe we have some doctors in here that could weigh in. I know, New England crypto says people are getting scared of full self-driving. They're definitely going to be terrified of remote surgeries. Well, on Tesla's conference call, which we kind of talked about, they pushed back their robotaxi event again. I think it was set for August 8th. They were going to have their big robotaxi event. Apparently now, and we don't even know if this is going to be the case, they may push it back again to October 10th. And to be honest, I think that's probably one of the main reasons why the stock got hammered so much on that earnings report, because a lot of people, and I get it, you know, both it's from a political standpoint and it's also from a lot of people just don't like Elon Musk. And I get it. I'm a big fan of Elon Musk. I think the guy's great, but I can also rationally understand why a lot of people get frustrated with him. I totally get it. Just the inconsistencies with some of the stuff on the roadmap. But here's how I like to explain it to some people. Usually the big innovators in society, like an Elon Musk, they're so overly optimistic all the time, and that's kind of what drives them to do these amazing things, right? He's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have full self-driving in 6 months, total full self-driving, total FSD, robo-taxis in every corner of America by 2025, totally. But that's what gets these guys up in the morning, and girls up in the morning, to relentlessly pursue these massive technologies and to solve a lot of these problems. It's almost like a mindset thing where they think they just don't have a pessimistic outlook. And you meet some people, like a lot of successful people you meet, they just have this glaring optimism where everything that they touch they think is going to turn to gold. And oftentimes it does. It just may not turn to gold in the time frame that they want, and it could be frustrating for investors. I get it. For investors, it's frustrating, right? I mean, if you're a family office or something and you're, allocating a large portion of the portfolio to Tesla because you're excited about full self-driving, you're excited about the new Roadster, and then on every conference call, the updates you get is, we're going to push it back. You know what, we're going to push it back. I get it. It's, it kind of, Elon Musk can kind of rub you the wrong way. And I totally understand that. So let's check out the restaurant at 53 West 53rd. Dining room is quite nice, right? Tim in Michigan says his political rhetoric is over the top. Can't stand him. Look, I get it. You know, you may not align with the guy politically, but he's doing some great things for society. But I totally, like, there's some people that are like, oh, I can't understand why anyone would not like Elon Musk. I love Elon Musk, but I can totally understand why he rubs people the wrong way. I get it. You know, it's strong personality. Totally understand. This is the, I was about to call this a bookstore. The gift shop at MoMA, which they've recently redid this, by the way. I think maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. It's quite nice. We have some updates with our friend Bill Ackman. His IPO, I think he wanted to raise about $25 billion. Due to market conditions, he knocked that down to, I think, $2 billion, and now I think he's postponing the IPO. So more to follow on that. If you want some more details on that, and I don't buy new IPOs. We've talked about many of those reasons before in the newsletter, but Pershing Square posted a press release on X, so you could read that if you're interested in finding out why they are delaying their IPO. I'll probably read that on the train tonight. I've never been to this Brazilian steakhouse. TK Porsche says no other person has so dramatically changed and advanced technology in our culture in the past half century or more. Totally, absolutely. And no one has really revolutionized the whole industry, right? If it wasn't for Tesla, and you can go watch a lot of these old interviews with these pundits on CNBC saying that Tesla's not going to survive 2 years after the IPO, it's a garbage company, EVs will never work. The only reason, and this is true, the only reason why we have such a big push for renewable energies, greener, cleaner energies, and electric vehicles in this country is because of Elon Musk. He's essentially forced the industry to change. So much so that I think for every single EV that Ford sells, they're losing like over 30 grand. Because Tesla, and this is according to Elon Musk, there's many interviews about this, well documented. According to Elon Musk, what he says the hardest part about the EV business is in the manufacturing process. And Tesla has gotten down that manufacturing process to a T. That's why they're profitable. All these other auto OEMs are not profitable selling EVs. If anything, it's a severe negative. And it's a crazy, crazy money loser on these EVs, which is a bit concerning, because if you think about all the other competition coming on the market, particularly from some of these Chinese EV manufacturers, there's just no way that any of these American auto companies are going to be able to compete with these very, very cheap and efficient Chinese EV makers. The only one that'll be able to do it is Tesla. The only one. Tim in Michigan says, what would Tesla's last quarter have looked like without EV incentives? Well, that eroded a lot of the margin. I think gross margins came in less than 18%. I think it was 14%. In order for Tesla to sell as many EVs as they did last quarter, they had to do significant subsidy on a lot of the interest rates for their vehicles. Which, the reason why I think the auto industry should get a little bit of relief hopefully, leading into Q1 of next year, is the Federal Reserve should lower interest rates. At least that's what the futures market is saying. But you're correct. There is, I mean, Tesla did turn a profit last quarter. I think they had about $1.4 billion in net income. What I'm most excited about is the is the battery business, the energy storage business, which grew about 100% year over year, and the robo-taxis, full self-driving, which has since been delayed. But margins are compressing because, to your point, I think that was Tim in Michigan, extreme subsidy, and that's obviously eating into profits. I mean, we'll see. Let's actually check in real time. I have my phone with me. Let's check Ford first, because I mean, Ford absolutely got hammered. Come on. Yeah, I think, Ford really got rocked. $11. Check GM. Yeah, even GM is severely below the 50. Brad says Ford fell off a cliff. Hey, Evan Weeks, what's up? This is Porsche's Cayenne, or Taycan, has been doing okay for them, but it's more of a luxury EV. Oh yeah, those things must be what, like $80,000? Let's Google it. Those look nice. There's a guy in the garage that I'm selling spaces in on 69th Street, has one. It looks really nice. Porsche Taycan EV. Wow, Evan Weeks is 120,000 with decent options. You're right. Look at that. So MSRP is 99,400. But to your point, that's probably like bare bones basic model. Guys, the price of new vehicles is freaking nuts. That's the base. Could you imagine dropping $100,000 for a base model of a car? I don't know, I'm not a big car guy, but that seems crazy. That's just the standard package, it's $100,000. That's freaking nuts. I think it would be interesting to hear from someone in the audience who has an EV. What's going on? Because if anyone remembers last winter, remember all of those stories, and I think this happened in Michigan, where the temperatures got so frigid, where it deemed a lot of EVs, not just Teslas, but EVs in general were just deemed inoperable because it was so cold. Cruz said, I'd rather buy a Model 3. I'd rather buy a Model X. If it ever comes time, for me to buy a vehicle, it's definitely going to be the Model X, unless Tesla comes out with something better. That's true. Alan, that's true. Says yes, but it's also a Porsche. You can enter into the EV market for a lot cheaper. If you're buying a Porsche, you aren't worried about money. True. It's a good point. More of a luxury item. Now, speaking of luxury EVs, I think Rolls-Royce has a luxury. Let me see. Rolls-Royce EV. Is that a model vehicle or is that actually out now? Yeah, this is it. Hold on, let me show you. I mean, it looks the same as all the other Rolls-Royce, but Spectra. Let's see how much this thing costs. Uh, 2024 Rolls-Royce Spectra, $496,200, according to Manhattan Rolls-Royce. You could buy a house with that. Doc Simmons' Rolls-Royce is way overpriced. What about Range Rovers? Do we have any electric Range Rovers? Hudat Dave's an electric vehicle will travel an average of 225 miles. In a realistic situation means you have to recharge every 225 miles, and each charge takes at least 30 minutes, if not longer. Yeah, I mean, an EV is definitely not ideal for long journeys, but I mean, if you're just cruising around Miami, if you're just cruising around New York, I feel as if 225 miles is pretty sufficient, and battery technology should get better every year. All right, let's check out all the Olympic stuff. Anyone here watch the, what's it called? The Olympics opening ceremony today? Evan Starks is Tom, the Volkswagen hippie van is also an EV. That one I can definitely see. MD Elias is the 2024 Maserati. Costs over $500,000. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe a Cybertruck. I forgot about my Cybertruck. KML says EVs. What about if you live in the wide open country? It doesn't make sense. I agree. That's why I'm on the side where, and you guys know this, I am a huge advocate for EVs. I love electric vehicles. But I don't think it should be, some people take it to extremes, the extremists that think all vehicles should be electric. I'm not in that camp, but I am in the camp for trying to make a greener planet, renewable energies, but you can't turn the spigot off of oil or you'll tank the global economy. And you can't mandate all of these companies to go 100% EVs by 2030, or you're going to bankrupt these companies. That's my stance on it. Let me zoom in here on the Eiffel Tower. This was the opening ceremony of the laser show. Professor Darios, as I am in the middle. Also, and we've talked about this before, particularly Western nations like the United States, we're very good at virtue signaling. So we're like, oh, let's actually get a better look at they have a mini version of the Eiffel Tower. Before they kick us out here, we'll look at it. The West is very good at virtue signaling. We're like, you know, I'm in California and I'm driving around in my EV, you know, I'm saving the environment. But we need to make sure that where we're getting all of the rare earths and the metals to make these batteries are ethically sourced. Like, for example, a lot of the cobalt, the lithium, not anymore. There's been some major changes, but definitely not ethically sourced. Much of it comes from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where they still quite literally have child labor and slave labor. So we can't, like, you know, say, oh, look at me. You know, when mining this stuff, if not done the proper way, is very detrimental to the environment, number one. And number two, if not done ethically, you're pretty much exploiting people around the world, which is also not good. So you need to make sure you're doing the entire picture appropriately. Which Elon Musk, that's why I have a lot of respect for Elon Musk, he said that on a former interview. He said that exact thing. And that's why he shifted a lot of his supply chain. I believe the number one supplier of lithium for Tesla is Australia now. Too bad we can't go down there. Probably too late. Anyway, I think we saw at least enough of it. Let's see what this thing is. Oh, maybe they're gonna, during the day, they'll show the Olympic Games on these screens here. Hey, what's up, Donna? Just finished watching your Brooklyn Bridge walk. That was wild last night. For those of you who joined the stream last night, we started in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and we walked quite literally all the way from Red Hook over the Brooklyn Bridge to Manhattan. Doc 7 says the globalist PC games, yeah. Shannon says the Red Hook apartment video is rad. It's a very unique unit. It's a very, very unique unit. That is penthouse 3B at the Conover. We sold the other penthouse for 2.6. This is the biggest unit in the building, and then we're almost sold out. The market has been really interesting, and if you want to read our quarterly report, I write our quarterly report for our team, the Kirsten Jordan team at Douglas Elliman. I just sent it out. What we're seeing is Manhattan is softening quite materially, but Brooklyn has actually been doing pretty good for whatever reason. I think maybe people just want more space. The median price per square foot, well, I should start with this. The median sales price for a condo in Brooklyn in Q2 hit an all-time record high. Over $1 million for the first time ever. That's pretty crazy for Brooklyn. So Brooklyn's, you know, I'm not gonna say I hate to say it, but you know, some people, depends on what side of the aisle you're on. But Brooklyn's like becoming like a Manhattan, particularly some parts. Quite expensive. I mean, try to get a decent apartment in Dumbo. That's Manhattan pricing in Dumbo, Brooklyn. But yeah, the Conover is very unique. I mean, you have 1,300 square feet of outdoor space on the roof. That's like a whole other apartment. You could have a massive party up there. The sunset's really nice. You can see Statue of Liberty. You could also see the Staten Island Ferry going by. You're next to the IKEA. It's very unique. It's very cool. Let me actually see if I can give you guys the report. Let me see. Please stand by, my friends. So I'm gonna put our quarterly report in the chat, and when you read it, you're gonna automatically kind of know that it's my voice because I write it very, very similar to our Behind the Street newsletter. All right, let me put this in the chat here, team. Give me a minute. All right. Let me go to my stream. Okay, that should take you to it. The https:/KirstenJordanTeam.com. That should bring you to the PDF.
Check out the.
Let me see. Yep, that's it. Josh says, are you a New Balance guy or a Nike guy? Seems like you're a walker. It's a good question. I would say I don't own a pair of New Balance. I'd say Nike and Adidas. I'd say 50-50. I go 50-50 between Nike and Adidas. Passing one of my favorite places in the city. Dave says you got a secured failed connection. I gotta check it out. This place is great. Del Frisco's. So we'll send that out every quarter. So that goes out to all of our clients, but you guys are more than welcome to check it out too. I tried to structure it in the following way. I kind of took over the project and I revamped it. More top down and then bottom up New York City. So at the bottom of the newsletter, we focus on where we do most of the business, which is Manhattan and Brooklyn.
A banana used to be $1, now it's $3.
Look at this place. I never even knew this was here. Oceana. Beautiful dining room too. Let's see what they got. course, that's a super professional newsletter, Tom. I'm anxious to read it later. Yeah, thanks. And I have pretty big plans for it. I sat down with my boss and I said, look, I think if we really take this seriously, it's going to be maybe even a really big part of the business. Since it's quarterly, I want to also integrate a video portion too. So there's a lot of interesting stuff coming. There's going to be more granular data, and maybe I'll even build my own real estate data platform that can be integrated one and the same with it. So lots of interesting projects I'm working on. This is a ramen noodles place. So it's 11:15 p.m. on a Friday, and it looks like a decent amount of people in Times Square.
Body language. Body language. You know exactly whose book is hell. Body language. That nothing. Shout out to Bill down in the building. We're very proud of you. And I forget to do.
Talk about the Line IPO. I don't think we did. Line IPO is the lineage, right? I haven't really been following it. But it is very encouraging because it almost, well, it does go along with what we've been saying. A return of IPOs in a major way. And I think, I actually don't know if that's true. I was about to say, I think that's the largest IPO of the year. Let me look it up. Give me a second. Because I feel as if, I was about to say ARM was the largest IPO, but ARM IPO'd last year, I think. I don't know, the years have like merged together for me. Wait, did ARM IPO in 2023 or 2024? I feel as if we covered it around the holidays. Hold on, let me Google this. September. Ah, MD, got it. Sorry, my chat's all discombobulated tonight. It's like half cut off on my screen. I don't know, what do you think about it? Do you have any first impressions or any thoughts? The company is the world's largest global temperature-controlled warehouse REIT with 480 locations spanning North America, Europe, and Asia. Lineage priced 57 million shares at 78 apiece on Wednesday, near the top of its initial $70 to $82 price range. The company raised $4.4 billion at an implied valuation of over $18 billion, making it the largest public offering since the chip designer ARM's $4.8 billion last September. Very good. I never buy new IPOs, but I'll put it on the watch list. Speaking of new IPOs, we talked about Ackman, which he's delaying. Well, it's perceived that he's delaying his IPO. This is Numora. And these, I don't either, been burned too many times. Yeah, wait, you always wait a year. You always wait a year. Because, and I always mention this book. It's a very good book if you want to understand IPOs and trade IPOs. It's called Life Cycle Trade by Eve Bobach and Kathy Donnelly. Two good friends of mine, very, very smart people. Now, Eve Bobach used to work at the Federal Reserve. Now she's a junior PM at Ropel Capital Management. And they did a complete case study going back to the 60s of every single IPO that ever hit the market. Did a case study of how they traded, what percentage of IPOs undercut the IPO price within 1 year. It's almost all of them. Doesn't even matter with earnings. And they all go through an IPO base. Because if you think about it, what an initial public offering essentially is, right? It's the transfer of ownership of the business. So from the founders, from the VCs, to the public markets, which are people like us, institutions, banks, hedge funds, things like that, family offices. And the hierarchy at a bank, or if you're at a big mutual fund or hedge fund, they'll assign an analyst to a stock. And that's kind of what you call the institutional due diligence phase. So the company will provide guidance, and if quarter over quarter they meet that guidance, so if they meet on revenue metrics, if they meet on earnings metrics, it's going to start to get covered more and more by more analysts at different mutual funds and hedge funds and big banks, right? And through that, then the analysts will start to recommend it to the PMs. If this company that went public, they reported earnings, they beat on both the top and the bottom line, and they raised forward guidance. It's very important to look for the institutional sponsorship. You know, what top institutions, what top mutual funds are assigning analysts to cover those stocks that go public. And it usually takes about a year for an IPO base to build and either break out one way or another. Because there's a huge turnover and float in the first year. Think about Facebook. Who remembers the Facebook IPO? Facebook was one of the worst performing IPOs 12 months out of the gate. Look at these two race cars. This place used to be a hotel in here. Looks like they rebranded to a newer hotel. Hey, what's up, Zozo Bob? Here's the book for anyone who's interested. You can get it for like $20 off of Amazon. Just great information, and it's a complete case study of IPOs. And it goes into deep dive into the characteristics of a leading stock and a leading company. Not just, oh, it has to have good earnings, oh, it has to have good sales, it has to have good, high return on equity, high pre-tax and after-tax margins. It actually gives you the percentages, those specific parameters to look for. So what is the average beat, right, of an IPO that went up, let's say 500% 5 years after IPO? What was the average percentage beat of revenue? What was the average percentage beat of earnings? And you can get, if you have quantitative skills, you can actually build some pretty interesting models with this. Especially if you're good at sorting large amounts of data in Python and things like that. You can back test and essentially scrape data from the internet, the SEC's website, and plug and play those parameters and say, okay, which IPO, like if-then, right? If-then statements. Which specific companies over the last 2 quarters not only beat earnings expectations, but raised forward guidance by at least 6%. Boom. If you write that query, it'll send you out those answers. And then you can kind of like backfill and guess. There's a lot of stuff you could do with data, structuring data. Hey, Flat Smack, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. MD says if I only learn to code. You don't even really need to, I can't get the words out tonight. You really don't need to, quote unquote, learn to code. GPT can help you out. Just go to ChatGPT and, it'll help you write these scripts. It's actually pretty good. And there's also a lot of stuff on like Stack Overflow. Reddit has helped me a lot. Lots of good stuff on Reddit. But if you guys are interested in a lot of that earnings analysis and finance talk, we do write a free investing letter for the group on our Substack. You're more than welcome to sign up for free. You can just scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, and it'll take you to our Substack. We publish every other Thursday, right at the market close. Speaking of winning stocks, this is Wingstop, ticker symbol WING. This has been a really, really, what I like to call TML, true market leader. Look at this, it's almost midnight, 11:30, and Wingstop is packed. Same thing in South Florida, in Miami. Wingstops are always packed. NBA Alliance's Perplexity wrote out a legit power of attorney for me last week. Now, Stan Druckenmiller loves Perplexity. I like it as well. Speaking of those fast casual restaurants like Chipotle, Wingstop, I think we're gonna get it. Well, we are gonna get a massive opportunity to buy a lot of those stocks now that they've corrected and they start to build their bases again. If you look at Chipotle, had a pretty good quarter. I thought it was a great quarter, but it's top for the cycle. The stock is down, so as it builds that base, and assuming earnings continue to beat, that's a great company to keep on the watch list as it builds out a base. Buy that, blow it through the highs. These are good companies that are making a lot of money. Chipotle reported earnings last week, well, this past week. I think they made $419 million in net income. Kava reports 12 days, 15 days, which is a newer IPO. Again, new issue. Let's see where Wingstop is trading at tonight, folks. You know what's been doing very well? The IWM, Russell 2000. Small caps. We wrote about that in the newsletter. Closed at the high of the week. Look at this. And most of the Russell 2000 doesn't make any money. That looks like a great base. And I think this is an interest rate catalyst move. Almost 100% rate driven. Most of it, at least. Shannon's is OpenAI working on Search GPT now. Very nice. Stephen F's small caps are doing good right now. Yeah, they are doing real good. And I think that's mainly due to the change of tune in the Federal Reserve. Small caps do not do well at all when interest rates are high. If you think about, if you built a discounted cash flow model, the way many people evaluate companies is based on the amount of cash you could pull out of the business over time and evaluating the future value or present value of future cash flows. And as interest rates increase, the present value of a company's future cash flows decline, and vice versa. But if we start to get rate cuts, they're going to need to reprice those equities, which means the present value of that company's future cash flows will start to increase. So you're going to need to reprice that for a lower interest rate environment. NBA Elias, Tom, do you think the Japanese yen caused some of the sell-off this week? I don't know. I'm still generally very optimistic on Japan. I think they're going to solve a lot of their issues. I would say more so what we should be focusing on, or maybe what we should be focusing on, is China. What's going on in China? Funny enough, we're walking past Trump Tower, China, is they've had to make a really tough decision over there. As we know, China is a great currency manipulator, but look what we've been talking about as it relates to the Chinese commercial paper market. and the Chinese real estate market specifically in a lot of trouble. So here's the option for China. It's start to ease monetary policy to try to bail out the economy, right, to prevent a cascade waterfall effect. But then that's going to crush their currency, or try to save the currency and let the whole thing fall apart. Which option do you think they're going to take? I'd say the first option, and that's the option that they're taking, which is probably a pretty net positive for global liquidity. I still think there's a lot of problems in China, but China's easing, and I think the US will start to ease. So we'll see. Another problem that is happening in China is there's tons of capital flight for obvious reasons, right? You see the largest amount of capital flight from China, from the UK, Brazil, and you see the largest fund flows or capital flow into the United States, into Singapore, and into Australia. Those are really the top three. I mean, I love the UK, but I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine. I think there's troubling times ahead for the UK, unfortunately. There's a lot of capital allocators getting the hell out of the United Kingdom. I mean, good for us in the US. A lot of that's going to come here. A lot of that's going to Singapore, and a lot of that's going to go to Australia. And here's maybe an interesting prediction. Let's walk past 15 Central Park West since we're here. A lot of that will probably make its way into Argentina now. Go figure. I mean, imagine us having that conversation 5 years ago, saying, yeah, a lot of that capital is probably going to make its way into Argentina. No shot. But now, I mean, talk about an Uno reverse card that Argentina played on everyone. I am very optimistic. Argentina, which is going to be good for the broader region and good for the United States. Cities like Miami, gateway to Latin America. But it only takes one, right? It only takes one success story in the region to get people's light bulbs turning on in their head to say, you know what? Free market capitalism is fantastic, right? This is the way to go. Socialism and communism is not the way to go. Free markets, individual freedoms, individual property rights is the way to go. And that sparks a major shift and prosperity. That's kind of where I'm placing my bets. Here's 15 Central Park West. Beautiful, beautiful building. Love it. MD's is ARGT, Argentina ETF. Professor says we need to change 180 degrees. I think you're well on your way. I just really wish I could get you guys inside the lobby of 15 Central Park West. You have no idea how immaculate it is in there. It's beautiful. You got to look at some of the photos online. It's unreal, this building. It's so beautiful. Now, if you're gonna buy in this building, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but buy in the front portion of the building and try to get a unit that sits just on top of the tree line of Central Park. It's amazing. MD says, what building is that? Yeah, this is the Limestone building, 15 Central Park West. This is one of the most desirable buildings in New York City. And the only reason why this building exists is because Related took a big risk buying that broken down convention center right at Columbus Circle and building the Time Warner Centers. Now, we went up to the Dakota building this week. What did you guys think of that? Trump says El Salvador is getting massive investments. El Salvador, Bukele is doing a good job. I agree. I didn't like what Trump, no offense, Trump, since you're in the chat. I didn't like what Trump said about President Bukele. I think that was very, I think Trump shot himself in the foot on that one, which he oftentimes does. He's done a fantastic job. You got to give credit where credit's due. That could be a very, very strategic ally for the United States. And I think he's doing a great job running that country, cleaning up the crime, getting back to sound money, and more importantly, free market capitalism. All right, everyone. Well, it's almost midnight, and I think we've all had a long week. It's been just the past 2 weeks have been crazy, mentally taxing for most. But let's do this, everyone. Let's call it a night. Let's get some sleep. Let's have a good weekend. Okay, let's start the weekend off on a good foot, and hopefully the powers that be will allow us to have a nice, relaxing weekend without any breaking, crazy news. Okay, no more presidents stepping down, no more assassination attempts. Let's just chill. Can we do that? Let's everyone just chill. Let's give us one weekend to chill. Sound good? And maybe what we'll do is we'll start off the live stream again in Brooklyn, but I want to take you past the Navy Yard. I've never shown you guys the new Brooklyn Navy Yard. So if you liked the Red Hook live stream last night, I think you're really going to enjoy the Brooklyn Navy Yard live stream tomorrow night. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we will see all of you tomorrow. Natalie Joseph Hardaway, New England Crypto. I'm going to let you know what I think about that RFK Jr. speech. I'm going to watch it literally right now. I'll message you. April, appreciate it. Michelle Henry, Dale, Janice S, JJC, appreciate it. Paul, Professor, Western Mass Dave, Lisa, Joel PM, Cash out and about, all of our moderators, C. Brown. Have a good weekend, everyone. Take care.